I went to 3 conventions this spring, which is a lot for me, so in this video, I'm gonna decompress by painting gunpla and sharing some advice for like-minded hobbyists. Hello people, my name is Liam and welcome to the Millennial Model Mayhem Content Zone. Back in April this year, I customized the high-grade Gundam Gushin to be the first member of a new crew I'm making for the tabletop game Gamma Wolves by Ash Barker. I ended up naming that project the Martellus, and I had a great time experimenting with freehand painting techniques on it, so I'm taking the chance with this video to further practice and refine these freehand designs on the high-grade Gundam Aerial. Furthermore, in my most recent video, which was about kitbashing, I talked about the topic of imposter syndrome and how it can affect a lot of us in our various hobbies and how it relates to my work. So today in this video, I wanted to touch on a similar topic, which is the fear of missing out.
Also known as FOMO.
My perspective on the topic has definitely been influenced by the recent conventions I attended that I briefly mentioned in the intro, as well as my work as a content creator, of course. However, before we get to properly discussing the topic at hand, I have a model kit to build, so please sit back and relax as I assemble the high-grade Gundam Aerial. Oops, I bought some accessories. Accessories aside, the value the base kit brings with its affordable price is great. However, I should mention that Bandai Namco Entertainment America sent this to me a while ago, but they're not sponsoring the video, and I bought the accessories myself. I knew I was going to customize it about halfway through watching the Witch from Mercury anime. I was engaged enough with the show that it really inspired me to paint the Aerial, and I must say it has been cathartic to work on it as the series has concluded. As inspirational as it was though, I was left with a similar feeling I've had from other enjoyable animes, where it feels like they have their peak in the middle of the story, but then abruptly rush to the end. With this series, I feel like there could have been at least 12 more episodes, if not more. But this is not an anime review video, so you'll have to come up
with your own interpretation.
For the record, I think the pre-colored permit chest pieces are a great idea. I just chose to build with the plain pieces because I knew I was going to be painting the entire model. I can see this looking great on the shelf with these variant pieces, proper sticker application, and some basic panel lining. The gimmick with the shield breaking into pieces that fly around is extremely cool, and I do love it, but I'm gonna save these pieces for a future project in Kitbashing Purgatory because I want to use the flight pack accessory, and when it's got that as well as the shield bits attached, I find the overall design has a bit too much going on for my tastes. Also, in terms of customizing this for tabletop use in Gamma Wolves, I want it to embody a kind of fast attack or scout battlefield role. Aerial's gun is also being saved for kitbashing with the shield pieces because I think the gun that came with the Delanza looks a lot better proportioned with this model. For the other hand, I really like how the melee weapons from Iron-Blooded Orphans look, so I'm stealing one of the swords from my clear color bale. The only other kitbashing I'm doing is with these pieces from the high-grade God Gundam and real-grade Astray Goldframe Amatsu Mina. Lastly, since this will be in the same crew as the Martellus, it will eventually get its own matching base. However, I'm not going to do that in this video as the process would be exactly the same as in April's video, and I haven't decided how I want to mount Aerial to the base yet. I'm using this clear stand that came with another high-grade kit as a temporary measure for now. I like the original design of the Gundam Aerial enough that I don't feel compelled to change it that much. On that note, I'm also not going to come up with a fictional pilot and new name for the mech like I usually do. I think Suletta, Mercury, and the Aerial are such a good and fresh addition to the Gundam franchise that they deserve to get their own Gamma Wolf stats. For what I am going to change though, I'm starting with the classic splitting of the waist flaps for slightly more dynamic posing, followed by careful removal of the V-fin's safety nubs for an edgier looking head. With the flight pack, I thought the thruster sections looked better facing the other way, so I swapped the orientation of those and then removed the beam saber handle storage mechanism from what is now the top side. To fill that cavity, I trimmed and filed these white fin pieces to size and glued them in to look like some kind of a vertical stabilizer. The remaining kitbashing pieces are being used to cover up the holes meant for the shield bits to plug into. There are holes for the other bits located elsewhere on the model, but I don't mind the way they look as much and can easily imagine them as some kind of science fiction mount for the new sword and gun to attach to. With that basic kit bashing and sanding completed, I did my usual gluing of vulnerable joints in place for a flight pose that looked dynamic enough, yet still with enough articulation for a couple of different poses. I'm maintaining my typical workflow involving minimal use of the airbrush with a starting layer of Vallejo black surface primer, then the underframe gets sprayed with model color old gold, the sword blade with silver pink Vallejo shifter, and the permit sections across the shoulders, thighs, and chest with ground is lava turbo dark shifter paint. I'm being lazy by estimating the thinning ratios and using the easier to clean single action airbrush, which doesn't result in the best finish, but I'm going to use hand painting techniques to achieve a burnished look to these metallic sections, so it's fine. To get that look, I grabbed the dry brushing tools and mixed in the model color silver with the paints and roughly dry brushed and stippled across the model. I also applied some more shifter paint to the permit sections to ensure they had a good sparkly look to them. Once I was satisfied with how these parts looked, I shaded the recesses with Nuln oil, taking care to not let the excess pool anywhere, and then protected it all with a quick spray of gloss varnish. Before moving into the main hand painting sections, allow me to explain a bit about the fear of missing out. By definition, it's the anxiety that can emerge from seeing or hearing about an exciting or interesting event that may be happening elsewhere. These feelings can often be aroused from seeing posts on social media, which no doubt played a part in me deciding to go to 3 conventions this year, those being Otafest, the UK Games Expo, and GameCon Canada. Most years I'm only attending Otafest, which is an anime-themed and community-driven event that I've had plenty of great times at. Despite this familiarity though, I still sometimes get feelings like I'm not doing enough to take advantage of all the exciting offerings, not capturing enough content, not posting enough updates to my socials, etc. You have to curate an experience for yourself based off what you think you'll enjoy at conventions like these, because they can definitely be a little overwhelming. Furthermore, it's important to be aware that even if the events are community focused, they are also a place for many companies big and small to make money. I don't mean to shame anyone for shopping here. I do plenty of consumerism myself. I just think it's good to be aware that the people who want us to buy these products tied to our special interests that we hold so dearly will benefit from us feeling FOMO. And some companies seemingly base their marketing strategy around it. With all that being said though, I don't want to be all like, convention's bad because capitalism, because I do genuinely believe that they can be a fun and wholesome time for people and that everyone should get to at least try to experience them at some point. I certainly had a good time at Otafest this year, and I'm very likely to go back next year. This year I managed to win the gunpla contest in the small category with my Pop-Tart Gundam Artifact Nightingale. Better get back to painting though before I stroke my own ego too much. We're not done talking about conventions and FOMO though. Here I'm applying Secret Weapon Titan Dark Navy and Vallejo Game Color Black for the armor colors, and P3 Ember Orange for the glowing sections, all in multiple thin coats as Lord Duncan Rhodes commands. The Dark Navy paint in particular required 3 to 4 coats in some places because it didn't have particularly strong pigmentation. You could also say that the previous gloss coat I applied after the metallic sections made painting these thinned down base coats slightly more difficult, but I believe I made the right decision because even with the help of the painting sticks, the pieces still went through a lot of handling throughout the painting process, so the metallic work definitely needed that layer of protection. Next up in the painting process is to do the first round of thick edge highlighting by adding P3 Iron Hull Gray into the mix for the black armor and Old School Citadel Hawk Turquoise for the navy armor. The initial highlighting is done with a roughly 50-50 mix of both colors, and the second pass is a narrower line with straight up Hawk Turquoise and Iron Hull Gray. Nothing revolutionary with the painting techniques here, just need to maintain good brush control and keep a clean brush nearby for fixing mistakes. Is it just me, or do the old Games Workshop paints have a distinct, pleasant aroma? So as these edge highlights become edgier, it is now once again time to talk about the fear of missing out. I can't deny that part of my decision to customize the Gundam Aerial in the first place was influenced by the fact that I knew the show was going to be wrapping up kind of around the same time that I knew this video was going to be produced, and would therefore be fresh and relevant within the almighty, ineffable algorithm.
But the show finished like over a month ago. Who do decide?
I was traveling to the UK in June, so I took the opportunity to visit the UK Games Expo. Mostly because I love tabletop games, but I'm sure my decision was also influenced by the FOMO I'd felt from seeing others attend similar conventions like Adepticon on social media. There were a lot of other people there making content like filming interviews, covering new products, commentating on tournaments, you name it, and it made me feel like I wasn't doing enough. I had to frequently remind myself not to worry and just do the stuff that I personally wanted to. My only real plan was to capture B-roll for the video you're watching at this very moment, and it was unreasonable to put the expectation on myself that I should be emulating these other creators. Their channels and audiences are completely different. Thankfully, by the time the weekend came to a close, I could say that I had a fun time and struck a balance between being present in the moment to enjoy what I was personally interested in and capture content to share with you all. I'll echo what I said in my previous video about how my position as a content creator existing in 2 different spaces brings certain dilemmas, like how I want to present genuine content about my hobby journey involving a variety of different models and inspirations, which can lead to me fearing for my channel's growth due to most of the data indicating that the most effective strategy would be to only do the same kinds of videos involving hand-painted gunpla. But if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll probably know that I have a hard time doing the same thing over and over again, and that my goal is not to become a famous YouTuber. Beyond my specific content, I can feel FOMO from seeing fellow creators receive products and invitations to things I'm interested in, and this is a negative headspace that's really hard to get yourself out of whether you're a content creator or not. Remember what I've said in the past and do your best to avoid comparing yourself to others. If you're feeling the pressure to pre-order an exciting new product or attend a big exhibition, try asking yourself if it's because it's something you think you'll personally enjoy, or is it because those other people in their social media posts look like they're having a really good time. Conquest, the game from Parabellum that I kitbashed minis for in my last video, was one of the things I was most looking forward to checking out, and it ended up leading into some cool opportunities with the third convention I went to back in my hometown, GameCon Canada. I will touch more on this later though, because it's now time for the most exciting part of the hand painting. Once the 2 rounds of edge highlighting have been completed, it's time to start blocking in the fancy freehand across all the turquoise armor. Like I mentioned before, these techniques are basically the same as with the Martellus project. However, as this is my second attempt and the panels I'm working on are a bit smaller on average, I'm going to try and pull off some slightly more complex designs. Not too complex though, because I still need the 2 models to look complementary standing next to each other. Once the first layer of the freehand patterns has been applied on all pieces, I finish up the iron hull gray highlight, and then move on to the home stretch. Game color verdigris gets added into the turquoise mix for the finishing touches. The first of these touches is to further highlight those edges with 2 more passes of increasingly thinner lines that only get applied in the places where the imaginary light source above would create the theoretical highlights. Then, once the edges are done, I take the same 2 stages of highlighting to the freehand designs. With the past freehand on the Martellus, I only did 1 extra pass across the freehand and the edges, so I think what I did with the aerial here is a significant improvement. After the turquoise is done, I'm grabbing the old reliable golden high flow titanium white to add to the black mix for finishing off these sections' edge highlights, which is done in essentially the same method as with the turquoise, so nothing new to say here. Finally, for the amber orange sections, I'm adding model color lemon yellow, high flow titanium white, and classic Model Mayhem staple glaze medium to build up the glowing effects. Any of you who watched my previous Gamma Wolves videos will be familiar with the process of building up the bright highlight and then glazing multiple thin layers onto the surrounding area to simulate the light source. The turquoise color that is contrasting wonderfully with this orange glow was picked from a poll that I shared with my patrons during the process for this project.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be Maracite from Neopets.
Speaking of my patrons, if you would like to support my work over at patreon.com/millennialmodelmayhem, you can get access to exclusive benefits such as HD wallpapers, behind-the-scenes updates, polls, and videos. There is now a lengthy vlog posted there that I recorded when I was in the UK for the Games Expo, so you can hear my unfiltered thoughts about that experience, as well as my haul of goods that I acquired there. So if you're interested in any of those benefits, you could have your name displayed next to these fine sprinkles. Or you could become one of the Mayhem machines like Moosepelheim and Let's Learn 3D, or join the Gogg hand with Janel, TsukasaWM, and Country Fried Minis. Now all that's left to do with the aerial is give it 2 thinned down coats of matte varnish from the airbrush, and then it's time for the beauty shots. My main goal with this project was to refine the freehand painting techniques from the Martellus onto a model that could also be on the same team as that thick boy. And I can confidently say that it was a success. This fancy filigreed crew is really starting to take shape now. The area that I see as needing the most improvements is with the finish of the paint, because with the amount of layers from the freehand designs and covering up mistakes, I'm wanting it to look a little bit smoother. Overall though, I'm not too bothered by this aspect, because to me the freehand and edge highlighting work is distracting enough. Remember that you must craft your own enjoyment, and just because someone else is posting about going to a big event or making some videos about exciting new projects, that doesn't necessarily mean your satisfaction will come from the same source. I've reminded myself a lot over the past year that my inspiration tends to come from tabletop gaming and anime, and that it's good for my mental health to participate in the local communities that surround these interests. So I've been trying to go to more of the local gunpla meetups in my area and just hang out, have a chill time, build a model kit without the pressure of making any video content about it. I've also taken an active role in facilitating even more socialization via miniature wargaming with Conquest nights at my local game store. I'll have more about that as well as the remaining footage from the cons I went to in a future video, because it's finally time to deal with this. If you would like to support my work, please check out the description where you can find methods for one-time donations, affiliate shopping, and of course my previously mentioned Patreon page, where you can be the first to find out what's coming next to the content zone. It is also much appreciated when you like, comment, share, subscribe here on YouTube, and follow my social media accounts. Thank you for watching to the end, and remember,
Interpretation.